on all computers. The other thing there is that there's an overall lack of clarity for stakeholders. Very important there when people, particularly if managers, don't know what's going on in other particular areas. Also, if you're time poor and you've got minimal profits, but you know you can get more profitable with what you're doing. If you have a great business, if you have a good business but you want a great business, then that's certainly something that you need to have a look at. To me, many of our clients come in here and they're already successful. They already have a fantastic business, but really they need to put the icing on the cake to really do it really well. And lastly, what I'd say is with a lot of clients that come in here, as a common thing, is that the owner is really driven to excellence. Either the owner or the people in the business, the managers want to do the right thing by them, and the owner wants to do the right thing by them. So if you've got people like that in your organisation, then certainly you need to actually have a look at systemising your business as well. So let's have a look now at one of our case studies, particularly of a company that is quite good but wanted to be great, and where the owner is driven to excellence. So the first company here is a company called Bamboozle. They do bamboo flooring. You can read their fact sheet there with what their history and their challenges were. But essentially, when I went to see Mark Hutchison, the owner, very busy in the business, and the business had about 12 staff in there, but he could see there that he could take on a lot bigger market share with what he was doing. The other thing there he had was he had a few statistics into place, and he had a couple of job manuals written up. And the key thing there for Mark was he realised he was writing up some job manuals, but some of them were crossing over, and he needed to make sure there that he was getting clarity on the job manuals and he was covering all areas of the business. He knew he didn't have all the areas covered, and he wanted a bit more clarity around that. So let's have a look at the steps to systemising a business with what we're doing. So as mentioned there, is most people think of when they systemise the business that job manuals is the first thing to do. And I don't like to be negative, but sadly that's not really the first thing you should look at. In actual fact, job manuals is the last thing that you need to look at when you're systemising your business with what you're doing. The first thing you really need to look at to make it easier for you so you don't trip up on creating your job manuals is a fundamental flow of your business. Define what your process is within your business. And that's very important to cover all different functions of your business. There should technically be 21 major functions within your organisation if you've done it correctly. Let me give you an analogy of this fundamental flow. If we take an example of a game of football, where the back line is on the left and the forward line is on the right hand side. In a game of football, the process is very simple. You kick the ball through the goalpost as many times as you can into the forward line, and the quicker you can do that, the more powerful or organisation or team you can be. Well, in business it's very similar. You get the work in and you deliver the work and you make sure the customer's happy with it, and you just keep doing that. Very broad, I know, but we can use this example to show you how a business grows and how they need systems. So when you have two people in the business, it's relatively simple. You understand each other, you almost run off intuition. Okay, so sometimes the ball gets kicked out of bounds in the full, but you pick it up before the customer sees it. As you kick more goals or you get more customers through your business, you employ more staff. You employ more staff, they don't know as many skill sets as you do in the business, but the volume increases, but also passing work on from one person to another increases as well. As your confidence grows because your turnover is increasing in the business, you find you have less time to do certain things. So as a result, work gets done without you necessarily, which is the right thing to do, but unfortunately more issues start to happen. They might not be done from a point of your staff being malicious. It's just a point that they don't necessarily know the right thing to do for that particular situation that they're in. You'll also find there, as you develop your business and grow the business, that there's areas in the business that you don't necessarily have time to do, like do a proper induction process for your new staff, spend time training your staff with what they're doing, or do a team performance review. You'll also find there that there's areas that there's crossover. Some people have checked the same resume twice, when really they only need to have it be done by one particular person. So all this really put together makes it a really busy organisation. You really there are working long hours, but what I would say there is that you've created something good. you should still pat yourself on the back for an organisation like this, because it's better than not kicking any goals whatsoever. So really what you have now is a nice problem, okay? One other thing I want to show you here, because a lot of people have this issue, managers and also owners. Let's take this quick example here. Okay, so we still have a game of football, but what we have here is the blue person is one and the same person, and so is the red person. But what we have here is a very clear definition of stress, okay, because we have the blue person playing the back line, but also the full forward. And we have a red person, Mr. Red, who's also been in the back line, but also a full forward position. Now, my example of this could easily mean maybe you're a blue person and you're checking resumes, because part of your role is a HR role, and you're also going out on site as the second blue person there, checking to make sure that work is correct. However, when you get back into the other blue part, back onto the back line, which is the HR role, you're faced with a mountain of paperwork because you went to the forward line. And really, that's a lot of hard work. Now, what we need to look at here is how do we organise this, okay? Because we don't want to feel like the person at the bottom left-hand corner of the sheet, because not all of us have multiple arms to work with. So let's have a look at this in a more easy, more team approach. It's important here that we look at this and not misinterpret this. What I'm looking at here is arbitrary lines within an organisation, because a full back can always kick a goal and a full forward can always save a goal, but who is overall responsible for all these distinct and different areas that you have in your organisation? When you have this outlined, it becomes significantly easier to be more productive within your organisation. And when you're more productive, morale will always increase within your organisation. So what do I mean by these areas or zones? Well, in the game of football, it's pretty easy. You've got the back line, the centre back, and so forth. But let's have a look at it within a business context. So we know now, by definition, that business is a complex group of processes. What I'm showing you here, though, is still an arbitrary flow, but a business has 7 major divisions. Now, I'll qualify 7 because some organisations that have multiple business core divisions will have more than 7, but you really need to talk to us in the office to establish that. Very quickly, every business has an office or administration area. Every business has a marketing and sales. You'd have a finance area where you collect the money. You have an operations, a production, or a service-based area in your business. You should have a quality assurance area, and you should also have a public relations area where you're getting people to think highly of you. And you should also, lastly, have an executive or management area as well. Now, most people focus on the purple, pink and the green areas, but really you should focus on all of them if you want best practice with what you're doing. It's very important here. What I'm showing you here is a very, very basic flow chart of what the different areas of the business. What we do in Kolbe Systems is tailor-make that flowchart specifically to an organisation. So you'll see here me with a fantastic IT company in TrustTech, and there is their organising chart that we've created for them, and it compiles all those different things that we've just spoken about there, and every single function that you're doing. Now, if you'd like to see these in more detail, we have over 100 of these in our office. And I'm sure we've got one that's a similar model to you, but if you'd like to see this in more detail, please feel free to give us a call and we can show you, we're well over 100 of these that you'll get some ideas with what you're doing. But we tailor-make these for every particular client that we work with. It's important that you know there that all those individual columns are like links in a chain, okay? You're only as good as your weakest link, and it's very important that when you're developing your fundamental flow, that you have all the links in place and they're all very, very strong, particularly if you want to step out of the business or have key management take time off the business with what you're doing. So now that you understand the fundamental flow, let's quickly go back to that pyramid to see how the rest of it actually slides into place. So when we have a look at that, yes, we need job manuals, but we now understand there that the fundamental flow functions chart or flow chart needs to be put into place with all those 7 major divisions in your organisation. Once you've done that though, then you need to look at a couple of other things as well. Okay, the second thing you need to look at there is your internal communications. And what I mean by that is your filing system standardised to your fundamental flow, both hard copy and soft copy? Okay? Is your filing system based off a system, or is it still on individual people within the business? When you do that, that'll give you more time to do job manuals. The next thing you need to look at is your templates. So many clients come to us because staff are using different templates for the same thing, causing non-compliance of certain jobs to happen, which means inevitably less profit. But your templates are still also linked to your fundamental flow of your organisation. So once you develop your templates, you find there's less issues happening in your business. That will also give you more time to develop your job manuals. The next thing you need to look at is what are your policies or your rules of your organisation, and this will reduce down your frustrations within the business, both for the owner and for managers where staff report up to managers. Having rules into place will certainly make it easier to write up your job manuals. We have a couple of other CDs that you might want to actually have a look at, but there's a distinct difference between policy and job manuals, but that's part of the training program that you go through with Kolbe systems anyway. The other thing you need to look at then too is statistics or key performance indicators. And a lot of clients try, firstly, always to do the job manuals and statistics, but end up finding that they don't have time to do either properly. What you need to do is reverse it and, like I said, start with that fundamental flow. But you can measure a lot more things than you possibly realise, and also a lot easier than you